Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's Tuesday afternoon, and we've got some mega stories coming in. Ineos have sacked Sir Alex Ferguson from his ambassador role. We definitely want to talk about that and all the details involved. Also, had just some news coming in about Thomas Tuchel's future in regards to the England job and Ten Hag's future, well, immediate future as well. Mason Mount ready for Brentford. Malacia finally back this month, and we are linked. We'll save it towards the end for the transfer stories. We're linked with Leroy Sané, Alphonso Davies, and Goretzka. 3 Bayern Munich players, effectively. How are we doing, Sam?
Yeah, it's been a long morning so far, and then this kicks off. So yeah, very interesting.
What's a long morning? Because I mean, it's technically mornings from 12, isn't it? So it's 12 hours of a morning. What dictates a long morning?
So several appointments. Had to go food shopping. Then had to come home, clean house, do all the different stuff. I've got a week off from work, and all I'm doing is chores. So it's
in a window, like what 4-hour window we're talking?
So from I got up at 8 this morning. So from 8 to about 11:30.
Okay. Well, it's certainly been a long morning for Alex Ferguson because he's received the news that, well, in a face-to-face meeting at Old Trafford, that they told him that the club are seeking to reduce costs and are no longer prepared to sustain his payments. He will remain a non-executive director at Manchester United, and he will be welcome to attend games. He was on 2.16 million a year in this ambassador role. He's already a multi-millionaire, yes. I imagine. So it's not as if he's going skint. They're not, making Fergie skint.
They're not taking his pension and his bus pass.
No. I'm sure he'll be all right. You know what I mean? Like, he's got quite a bit of money behind him. But there's been quite a mixed reaction to this on social, Sam. Some people saying disgrace. Some people saying, we need to do it. Where's your head at with this?
I think there's a couple. I've seen both sides of the argument. I agree with both sides of the argument, really. I understand, like, when a new company comes in and takes over something, I know they don't own United fully, but they've got sport in control, so they want to lean costs. Obviously, we saw the disgusting 250 jobs let go. People lost their... There would have been other options, I think, to do so. And I think the fact that they've now gone into Fergie's pocket and decided to sort of let him go. I understand the process. I understand why. But surely the guy's the most successful manager in the world, who's got a massive history at Manchester United, who's won everything there is to win and built the club from where it was to where it is now. Surely you can sort of give him the 2 million a year. Like, what is he, 82, 83 at this point, Sir Alex? Like, it's a weird decision. It's a weird cost-cutting measure. I understand the idea of cost-cutting measures, but this one in particular is a bit weird to me. I'm not outraged. But again, it's a weird one. It's a weird one to target and go, that's why we need to save money.
If we're to peel the layers back slightly, do you think there's, in terms of his influence on the club, and this is just playing devil's advocate, this is not my opinion, but I'm just thinking, are they maybe, because they want to go in the new direction with the new stadium and this new kind of thought process, want to go away from the old, if that makes sense?
I understand that. Like, I think a lot of managers have suffered from the sort of looming, I don't want to say ghost because he's not dead, but the looming figure that is Sir Alex, because he's so synonymous with the club and the success that he brought. Is going to be unmatched. I don't think any Manchester United manager is ever in the future is ever going to get close to what he did. So to have him at every game and have some sort of authority, I know he's an ambassador. He was on the executive board, so he had some sort of power, but obviously not elite power. I think David Moyes suffered from that when he came in, and I think future managers have suffered the same sort of thing, having like him in the stands just constantly. People like go, "Oh, it's not Fergie, is it?" It's like, "Oh, you're not successful as Fergie." I think that I understand that, like, we need to completely fresh slate and start from scratch and start again and like rebuild what United is, but I'm sure there's going to be costs like flying the Glazers here, there, and everywhere, £500,000 a time to the FA Cup and back to Florida and stuff like that. And they're not going to end, are they? They're going to carry on. So it's like, could you have saved the money elsewhere rather than this? But I get your point. I understand your argument, and it's a valid argument.
Yeah, that's where for Ineos it's difficult to do that with the Glazers, the money that they're taking. But I'm pretty sure that there's been an agreement, right, to stop them taking dividends for like the first 3 years or something with Ineos in charge. So there's been cut costs everywhere, and I think one thing for sure, they're making really unpopular decisions, aren't they? Yep. They're making the tough decisions that no one wants to.
And they don't care, which is good, which is you want somebody, if somebody's in charge of something, you don't want them to be influenced or swayed by emotion or fan sentiment either way, because we've seen that happen under the Glazers, haven't we? Fan sentiment has pushed things certain ways and stuff. So you want that, but all this stuff that they've done and all the stuff I disagree with, if it makes the club successful, I don't think anybody will argue with it. However, if they do all of this and they're not successful, it's going to look pretty shit.
Yeah. I think the main thing we take away from this, and you just touched on it, if there is money that's being paid to the Glazers still in whatever form that is, I don't know if it is dividends or what have you, kind of focus on that before you target a club legend is what I would say. But I don't know the ins and outs of the financials. I don't know the specifics, so it's hard to really make an assessment on that. But I'm not absolutely outraged by it. I can see why people are. Obviously, Fergie holds a very special place in a lot of United fans' hearts. But I think, look, he's done a lot for the club already. He's 82, as you mentioned. Just enjoy the games, man, innit? Like, I think you're going in a new direction. I personally don't have a mega issue with it, but I understand the emotion behind it.
I think certain United fans, and I don't want to label everybody like this, but I think certain United fans just have like outrage in their head. I think they're just so used to it because of the Glazers and all the decisions and shit decisions that they made. I think they just have this outrage in their head. So now Ineos are coming in, like you said, making tough decisions. And they're outraged because they want to be angry, because they're frustrated at the state of the club and stuff like that. And I think it just swings wildly all the time. Like, I think before, like, for an example, before Bruno got his new contract, I think when that was being, like, sort of teed up, everybody's like, yeah, he's been our blessed player since Fergie, give him the contract and stuff. And now he's had the contract, he's playing poorly. People are like, well, why is he giving that contract? Do you know what I mean? It just swings back and forth between outrage and just sort of, like, things. So, yeah, it's tough. I imagine it's tough being Ineos and making these decisions right now. I don't envy them making these decisions. Like, you have to make hard decisions and they have to pay off. They have to make you successful, because if they don't, you've made shit decisions and you've made tough decisions for no benefit whatsoever.
And the reaction I've seen from fans, obviously they'll take that into credit and they'll take that into the bank. But a lot of them saying, you're sacking Fergie before you're sacking the actual manager, because there's a lot of people who wanted the manager out. Oh. And Laurie Whitwell, kind of updated us on this before, saying from the perspective of those running United, there was no need to provide an update on Erik ten Hag's future following Tuesday's meeting beyond those directly involved. Because obviously, as soon as that international break finished, it was a 0-0 against Villa.
Yeah.
At the time, like over the course of a couple of days, it was huge about that meeting. There was like loads of news, and it just kind of. They just didn't announce anything, did they? Do you think they're looking at that as like, we don't need to because maybe disrespecting the manager? It's just like, it's weird, isn't it? Because they didn't address it at all.
I think,
or did they need to address it? I'm not sure.
I think to them it was probably discussed, but I think it was probably agreed. We're not going to make a decision. We're not going to sack him at this point. So because they hadn't decided to sack him, or they haven't decided to do that, that's why they didn't address it. Because, like you said, they don't want to cause uproar. They don't want to cause like media sort of biting on it and stuff like that. So they just sort of treated it like it's an everyday meeting, because they said for ages, oh yeah, it's been booked in for months.
Yeah.
So they're just like, this is a meeting that was going to happen regardless. And because we've not made any major decisions in terms of the manager or anything like that, then they felt like they didn't need to make a decision, make an announcement, like you said, or a press conference or whatever. So I think they probably went into that meeting knowing they weren't going to sack him. I know there's people who are fighting Erik ten Hag's corner. I believe, is it Sadays Brailsford and somebody else?
There's a couple, I think.
Who think he stayed, but then there's been reports that Sir Jim wanted him gone and wants Tuchel in. Obviously, he met with him in Monaco, etc. So there could be like, because the football people are divided on it, maybe that's why Ten Hag got a stay of execution and he gets to stay, because there's no like 100% decision on it.
Well, the one manager that was linked with it heavily, and someone I was interested in, was Thomas Tuchel. And Rob Dorset from Sky today has announced that the FA are in talks with representatives of Thomas Tuchel, with the German coach in pole position to become the new England manager. But also Pep got kind of linked with the England job yesterday as well, which I kind of covered. I know you wasn't as keen on Tuchel as I was, but would that be a blow, or would you be I know you're not really asked about England either, but would that be a good fit for England, do you think?
I mean, I don't. He's not done any international management before, has he? He's just been purely a club manager. I know he was linked with the Germany job before Nagelsmann took it up. I'm sure he was linked with that, and I thought that was a really good fit. I thought maybe that happens, but obviously it ended up not happening. Yeah, I find it hard to sort of like weigh up the pros and cons of Tuchel on England because honestly, I don't give a shit about England anymore. Like it's very hard to sort of give a toss about it. If you look on paper in terms of like who's the best available manager who's not with a club currently, it probably is Tuchel. So that's who you aim for. I know there was like rumors of Pep and stuff like that, but I think that's like unrealistic when it comes to England. I know a lot of people feel like, oh, we should have an English manager for England. I don't know where you fall on that side of the fence, whether you care or not, but I think he's a good manager, and I think he could probably bring some success from England. Whether he wins the tournament or not, I don't know, but I think he could do better than Southgate anyway. I think he's a better coach than Southgate is.
Well, he's proven he's won in finals before, I know. He's proven he's decent with young players. I do think there's that
Champions League winner.
Exactly. So, look, he's definitely better than Southgate. I think one thing I would say for sure, if he's in charge of those finals, in the Euros in particular, I think we win that. And then the domino effect of that going into the World Cup and stuff, I think you start winning, more stuff then. I do think Southgate was that last kind of the quality that he's missing as a manager. Tuchel has that, and he has that discipline, and he has that fucking
history as well of winning things, which Southgate doesn't have.
I think it'd be good, but I wanted him at United. I'm not gonna lie, I really do. And I know that kind of chucks it away from what Ineos are planning to do in the long-term strategy and But I'm running out of patience as a United fan, and I want to win stuff. I want to be back in Europe. And Thomas Tuchel has an incredible record in Europe. If you look at his stats when he first went in at Chelsea, so that's what I want. But if he goes to England, I suppose it's like a kind of a second team in it. So it's like, well, I'm all right with that, but. Yeah, it's weird that a German coach in charge of an English team.
Yeah, well, it's we've had an Italian in charge, we've had a Swede in charge, so it's not unusual, I suppose. I think, he's the best available coach in terms of like I said, being free. Again, I think if you do bring him into England, is he a long-term option? I don't think so. Like, obviously, Southgate was there for, 8 years? 10 years? Yeah. How long was he there for? He was there for a while anyway. And I think the FA want to continue that long-term thing, the connection and stuff like that. And I think they were hoping Lee Carsley was going to be that guy, but then he said some stuff in press conferences, and I think he's kind of ruled himself out of the job. And then, obviously, the performance...
he was the same as the Southgate model as well, though, wasn't it?
Exactly.
It's like, so, I don't really see that.
And it's going to be tough to see like where they go, who they hire, which direction they go. Because I think England have a team capable of winning things. You've got a team there that can win trophies. So do you bring in a manager like Tuchel to win something? Like, I think, is it your World Cup next year or is it the year after?
World Cup. You got the World Cup in America, aren't you? And then you got the Euros.
It's like,
I can't remember.
Yeah, do you bring in Tuchel to try and win that World Cup, or do you then bring somebody else in to sort of build towards the Euros and do that? Like that, I guess that's the sort of like plan for it. Because obviously USA are planning, they're hosting the thing, so they don't have to qualify, but they're obviously planning to go as far as they possibly can because they've brought in Pochettino, in a very experienced coach, so they're trying to plan to try and win something or get somewhere. So are England going to do the same? I don't know. I don't know what the FA would sort of direction they would want to go.
I think that's the correct decision because I look at past England managers. I'm not convinced by any of it. No. Capello, obviously, he was amazing what he did, back in the 90s and stuff. But in terms of the quality of managers they've had, really, none of them have had mega pedigree, have they? You talk about Southgate, Roy Hodgson.
Allardyce.
Sam Allardyce got the job, didn't he, before he fucking, obviously, all that shit came out about him betting or whatever it was. Even like Sven had done decent things, but there was no like absolute world class option. I don't think Steve McLaren wasn't. He's a well renowned, well respected, but I think Tuchel is a winner, and he's managed some of the biggest clubs, and I think he'll do a good job.
You look at the other names linked, and again, they fall far in comparison to Tuchel, don't they? Like Graham Potter's been linked, which I understand. That seems like an FA hire. Eddie Howe's been linked. That seems like an FA hire. English coaches, very distinct style and setup, but haven't won anything. I think it ends up going to one of those. I think Potter or Eddie Howe ends up getting the job. Obviously, he's got tensions at Newcastle with what's the guy called, Paul Mitchell. Got tensions in for that. So I think one of those two ends up getting it. I think if Tuchel comes in, obviously, I think they want to win something next year. I think that's what they're planning. I think if they get Eddie Howe or Graham Potter in, I think get used to what we've already seen from England, I think.
I've got no issue with that. They're looking at the World Cup, and I think Tuchel could come in, and with the quality of players that we've got, we should at least make the semis or the final with that team. I've got no problem with that, and I think he'll do well. But yeah, let's see what happens with that, because he's in pole position, but of course, who knows? Ineos might react and go, tonight, in a bit, but I doubt it. Right, let's talk about we've got the game coming up, obviously, on the weekend, Sam. We're going to save our thoughts on Brentford, obviously, for the preview in itself on Thursday. But we have had news about Mason Mount returning. Laurie Whitwell put Mount, who was seen instrumental to United's improved pressing schemes up top at the start of the campaign, is set to return to training ahead of Saturday's game against Brentford. And also the expectation is that Tyrell Malacia may finally make his return to action for Man United this month. What's your expectations for both players?
Malacia, I don't have an expectation. I don't know what to expect.
Long time out though, isn't it, for him?
18 months out, major setbacks. Sometimes players like this never recover and never get back to the levels that they were at previously. Like, especially with a major injury like this, not being match fit, it's going to take a couple of months to get back to things. So I really don't know what to expect from last year. It's a really weird one. I just hope he can start playing again, and I hope he can put him some good performances. That's all I can sort of expect from Malacia, because God knows we need a fucking left back at the minute. Mason Mount, I kind of just want to leave this to you, because I know you're a big fan of his and you backed him and stuff like that. But where are we at with Mason Mount now? The amount of injuries the guy's been out consistently. Like, I've kind of given up on him. Like, I just think he's never going to be what we want for United, and I don't see where he fits in, because he can't be consistent. He can't stay fit. I just don't know what we do with him. Let
me ask you this then: if he could stay fit, would he be in the team?
Where does he play? Is he an 8?
Look at Bruno's form at the moment.
But is he going to drop Bruno, Ten Hag? I don't think.
No, but I'm speculating. I'm trying to, in a world where we can kind of put players in and stuff, would you make that decision?
I would love to see him. Like, if he stay fit, I'd love to see Bruno dropped and him rotated in and play some games, because I think he could be effective in that role. I don't know if he can stay fit, because it just seems like one injury after another, doesn't it? It just seems to be never. He plays like a game, and then he gets injured in training, and then he's out for weeks, and he comes back. He's on the bench for a game. He comes back next game, starts a game, gets injured, and he's out. And that just seems to be a repeating pattern. It's like Luke Shaw. Like, how long do you give this guy before you go? We've spent 60 million on him, and he just doesn't affect anything.
How did he not pick up on that though? You know, when they were signing him with the medicals and stuff, do things like that not glare up? And do you know what I mean? Or is it just...
We know the medical people have had issues, don't we? Like, over the past a couple of years before Ineos came in, and Ineos coming in, there's been a lot of changes, haven't there? Like, people have gone and things have changed. So I think under the new regime, although saying that, they apparently knew that Lenny Yoro had an injury and they proceeded with it anyway. And we see where he's at. So yeah, it's worrying. It's really worrying, because I want to like Mason Mount. I think he's got some qualities and he seems like a good lad, but I don't think he's ever going to be fit for us.
Chivy fucking hates him, doesn't he?
Anytime
he mentions Mason Mount, he's like, oh, it's like the boogeyman's just come out and fucking... And I get it, I understand it. I know there was question marks when he first signed, because it's like, well, where does he play? He tried Casemiro, Mount and Bruno, and that just didn't work, you know, for many, many reasons. I will always say this, I think he's a good player. It's just as simple as that. There are things that come with it. There's a lot of baggage in terms of his injuries and where he's going to play. But I believe he's a good player. I hope he stays fit. It's hard, like you're saying it, to get faith and be like almost happy that a player's coming back when you know inevitably in 2 or 3 weeks' time you're going to get that news again, aren't you? Hamstring or this, or, you know, pulled calf or...
How many times has Laurie Whitwell like sort of put out or Mason Mount returns for this thing? It seems like that's all Laurie sort of like puts out at this point. Like it's bizarre. And then it's the same with Luke Shaw. It's just like, oh yeah, he's going to be back after the international break. We've had 2 international breaks. He's still not back.
Yeah.
Like, I just think, I think you need to sort of move on from these guys eventually. And it just seems like we're hoping that these players come back and fix our problems, and they're just never going to be fit. So.
Well, he talked about the pressing structure, and I thought that was interesting because at the start of the season, there was no doubt about it that was better. It looked a lot better, more efficient. Harder to play through. I like the look of it, but what you kind of had with that, which we've still got now, actually, to be fair, we weren't scoring enough goals, was we?
No, and Mason Mount, I know he's chipped in with goals here and there, but he's not a goal scorer. Like, that's
Against Brentford, actually. I think that's his only goal.
Like, he's not a goal scorer, even for Chelsea. Like, I know he probably got 6 or 7 goals, but he's just not a goal scorer. So you've got that pressing structure, but you've got nobody in front of him who can put a ball in the back of the net. Just like that pressing structure is kind of for nothing, really, isn't it? Because you've got all the possession and you're pressing them and you're winning back and you're pushing up the pitch, but then you don't put the ball in the back of the net.
Creating, no one's finishing.
You don't put the ball in the back of the net, you don't win games. That's the result.
I think the perfect example of that was the Community Shield where Ahmad squares it.
Yeah.
And Mount's not in that. You know, if Hoyland say think, oh, he finishes it, or even Xerxes. But yeah, I don't know. At this point, I'd take anything. If it improves us off the ball, we're not scoring goals anyway. So why not? You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to try anything. But yeah, we'll see what happens. There's a bit of transfer talk I want to get into, Sam, and different positions that are talking about, but same club. So we've got Goretzka, Sane, and Alphonso Davies, and I've got different thoughts on either one of those. But I mean, you take you pick of the bunch here. With any of them names, would you take it United?
I mean, I'd take Alphonso Davies. Absolutely.
And this is from Florian Plettenberg, by the way, as well as a good journalist in Germany, so it's not just nonsense.
Like I like Alphonso Davies a lot. I just think he's going to go to Madrid. I think players like that, they dream of playing for Madrid, and I just think that's where he's going to go. And we know Madrid love to do this with players. They go, oh yeah, come to us next year when your contract's up. And I think that's what it'll do. I think in David Alaba's potentially his career's over, potentially, isn't it? The injury he's got and stuff like that.
There's rumours, but then Romano put out before that the rumours are nonsense, and he's so
fair enough.
I don't know. And also, they've got Ferland Mendy, so
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't expect us to get him. Like, if we get him, fantastic. I know we've beaten him to a defender in Lenny Yoro before, so stranger things have happened. But yeah, I just don't expect to get him. Leroy Sané, good player, but it just seems like a weird buy, that, doesn't it? It doesn't seem
Why? Why do you think it's a weird buy?
Because how old is he? 27, 28? Is he older? How old is he?
No, he's that old. I mean, you might be right, actually. I'm not sure, but he is. Yeah, he is 28. Correct. Right.
So the age profile doesn't make sense to me. I think if we're going to get a wide player, I think go and get young. Go and get somebody like Bayern did. They went and got Michael Olise. If you want to go get, that's the kind of guy you go get. Young player, up and coming, can build into the team and stuff. I just think Leroy Sané is a good player. I just don't think he's amazing. And I think if you're going to buy a 28-year-old, he has to be absolutely amazing. I just don't think he's that guy. Goretzka just hasn't played much for Bayern, has he? Like, he was in and out of the team for a bit under Tuchel. Did he play centre-back for a while as well for Bayern?
Yeah. I think Goretzka is one of the most overrated players ever. I think people saw the transformation at Bayern, just like jacked up, obviously on steroids, like you can clearly tell. And he just thought he was this juggernaut, an amazing player, and he's been all right. He's been decent for Bayern, but he's very, if you've watched him, especially recently, the past couple of years, very stiff on the ball, loses it a lot of time. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't convince me at all. I've never been like mega interested in that signing.
A lot of play, like, this is the way Bayern operate. They just take the best players from all the German clubs, don't they? To sort of weaken them, and they don't tend to work out. Like, they took Sabitzer, didn't really work at Bayern. They've took Goretzka, they took Mario Götze from Dortmund. He didn't really work. Konrad Lehmer seems to be working quite well. I didn't expect that from him, but he seems to be doing really, really well for them. So, yeah, none of them Alphonso Davies aside, the other two don't thrill me like at all. Like the other two are like, I don't see why we would go for them. And then did Plettenberg sort of mention we go after a defensive midfielder as well?
Yeah, correct.
Why have we bought Ugarte then? If we're going for a defensive midfielder, who's it? Was he for?
Extra depth in it, I think, because Casemiro's and everything are going to go. Yeah. So,
well, who's that guy then? Who did we get there?
I don't know. I think this is, to be honest, I agree with the Sané thing. I mean, maybe it's a bit too old, but it depends how much. If you get Leroy Sané for 20, 30 million, then I don't mind. It's like the Trossard thing that I always mention.
Yeah.
Experience, they can have an impact. Not every player I want to buy has to be under 25. I think depending on what they bring, what values they bring, and experience to the team, I'm okay with that. And I look at how Rashford's performing at the minute. I look at how Garnacho's performing at the minute. I don't think they're cutting it at the minute, are they?
I think that's what Ineos are doing, though. They're clearly targeting younger players under 25.
Yeah.
That's clearly what.
Not every signing they're going to bring in, though, will just be that.
But that seems like what they're doing. Like every other signing has been under that age. So it just seems like that's what they're doing. It just seems like a weird step back into sort of more Glazer signing territory, Leroy Sané. And will it go, he play for City as well? Does that go down well with fans?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, Raheem Sterling played for City as well, then he was in talks with him.
Yeah, he's played for everybody. Liverpool, City, Chelsea, so now for Arsenal. So yeah, it's a weird thing. These weird signings. I don't think any of them end up coming to United, to be honest with you. But I'd be interested to know like what sort of defensive midfielder we're going for. Obviously, I've cried out for Hjumland at this point. Like over the thing, I don't see it happening, but I would love that guy. But yeah, that'll be interesting because if Ugarte is struggling to adapt, because I saw a story somebody put out saying Ten Hag's focus this week is integrating Manuel Ugarte into the team properly. So maybe you think that's why he didn't play the last couple of games. Like he didn't bring him on. Like he thinks he's not ready to be in the team yet. So maybe that's why we're looking at another defensive midfielder. So yeah, that's an interesting quote from Plettenberg.
Well, we said it at the start, didn't we? With Ugarte, not at the start. He said it at the start. Sorry, Ten Hag, when he was being asked about it, and he said it could take months for him, to get into the squad. And then when he played for Uruguay, everyone was like, "Why is it going to take a month if he's playing, nearly 90 minutes?" But I think that's what he meant, and I did touch on that when he first got in. Like everyone was on about fitness. It's more rhythm, tempo, getting used to your teammates, and you can clearly see that he's not the games that he's played in the minutes it's had. You can tell he's not. It looks like a lost fish.
He's rushing about, isn't he, trying to affect the game, but then he's not sort of in step with his teammates and where other players are, and he's sort of like he's trying, but again, like it's not being effective. I think if that makes sense, and I think didn't Ten Hag as well stay at the beginning of the season? We're not ready to go yet. Like that was a damning statement. Now you look back, isn't it?
But I'll be honest, Eric. Neither was any other team.
No,
every team's had their own problems to deal with. Cole Palmer coming back late, Saka, like everyone's had to deal with that. So you're not the only manager, and with all due respect. Punch Paints, people in the chat, get your questions in. Anything you want to discuss towards the end of the show, smash like on the video as well. Punch Paint saying, big up Nick and Sam, titans of the United community, legends of the game, superheroes to many of us. That's a very complimentary comment. Big up Real Red Talk. Tough topic to cover. I hope they didn't cut Sir Alex's money because he backs Eric Ten Hag. No, it would have been nothing to do with that. It just would have been a pure business decision. Malacia will have a crazy positive and motivated attitude. I think he's going to smash it. Mason will bring the energy in the press. I'd like to see how Xerxes and Mount link up. I'm feeling dangerous. Let's beat Real Madrid to another defender. Richard in the chat as well joining us. And we've got Noah Theodros saying, as a Man United fan, they sacked our greatest manager in club history before Eric Ten Hag. That's embarrassing. Thoughts there. So a lot of fans. By the way, I'm on 5 Live tonight discussing this. So if you want to check me out, coming around 6 o'clock, I think it's 6. I'll be discussing this.
Also, we've got Jay Motti on at 5 o'clock today.
Yes.
So Sir Motter's Head returns. So please do sort of subscribe, hit the notification bell, so make sure you don't miss that, because having Jay on is always fun, and it'd be good. Like, we were just going to chat shit, but might be good to get his take on this Fergie thing as well.
Oh, for sure.
Interesting opinions. So yeah, please don't miss that 5 o'clock.
Absolutely. I don't know where people are. I don't know where Steph is. Random guy. My Damned United. Tim 99. Shah Sam. All the legends. Brian Casey. Make sure You let us know you're here. Even if you're watching not live, if you watch us later on, get in the comments, and hopefully we'll see you later on at 5 o'clock. Is the show with Jason?
5 o'clock. Yeah.
5 o'clock. Yeah. We'll see you into it. Yeah. Take it easy.
Peace.
Peace.